Building a program is about more than wins and losses. At Lee University, Megan Smith is helping grow women's lacrosse while also making an impact off the field through her work with the Austin Hatcher Foundation, supporting families facing pediatric cancer. Having faced her own battle with osteosarcoma, her perspective on leadership, resilience, and purpose goes far beyond the game. From developing student athletes to making an impact in the community, Megan now sits down with us to share her journey. This is Inside the GSC. Today on Inside the GSC, we're joined by Megan Smith, the head women's lacrosse coach at Lee University. Women's lacrosse continues to grow across collegiate athletics, and coaches like Megan play an important role not just in developing the teams, but in help expanding the sport itself. Megan, welcome to the show. We appreciate having you on here, and thank you for spending some time here to be with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to be here and just honored to be able to share a little bit about my story and myself.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Megan, let's start with this question. When you look at where women's lacrosse is today compared to when you first got involved with the sport, what do you think has changed the most?
Oh my goodness, the community, just the growth. When I played in high school, there were only a few teams in the South, and seeing that GSC wasn't even part of the conversation, and now seeing the whole conference we have and all the other conferences, just the growth of the sport has been amazing.
For sure. And it's amazing, like with a sport like women's lacrosse. I mean, I've heard of lacrosse when I was growing up. The style of women's lacrosse compared to men's lacrosse, I didn't really grasp that until I was an undergrad and I was starting to work in athletic communications and covering those games. But even then, like just the boom it's had, because when you think of women's lacrosse or just lacrosse in general, you think of it as more of a northern sport. But I mean, between what the Gulf South Conference has, Sunshine State, and just, again, the boom of teams, if you will, that have been around here, it's really provided a sport culture, for want of a better term, and something that has the potential to really grow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been just amazing to be a part of. I've kind of felt like I've grown with the growth of lacrosse, which has been awesome to be a part of and learn and grow and see where we are now. And hopefully that continues to get bigger and bigger.
For sure. And speaking of lacrosse and stuff, Megan, let's get to the origins and just how lacrosse first was introduced to you, and just tell us a little bit about the story of how you first got introduced and just how you fell in love with the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a soccer player for about 16 years and had an injury, a career-ending injury. I got shoved into a goalpost, and I wasn't ready to give up sports. And so my local high school, my homeroom teacher happened to be the women's lacrosse coach. And for 2.5 years, she begged me to try out coaching or playing, and I was like, no, I'm not interested, not interested. And I went and tried out and for goalie for lacrosse, and immediately fell in love, and kind of been that's what she wrote, and I've been in it ever since. Been playing since I was a junior in high school, and then played collegiately, and now I've been coaching for 10 plus years. So
When did you realize that women's lacrosse would become something bigger than just a sport that you would just enjoy playing?
yeah, definitely in college. I was blessed with some amazing coaches. Coach Scott Tucker, he was the head women's lacrosse at Limestone College when I played university, and now unfortunately they're closed. But he was just a prime example. Like I wanted to do that every day. And starting late, obviously, when you join a college team, like it's the best of the best. So I knew that I probably wasn't the best player from, Marietta, Georgia, only playing 2 years before I got to college, but being able to take my time and be a part of the team and watch from the sideline, I learned a lot, and I kind of saw what went into the everyday of coaching on and off the field. And I just knew like that is something I wanted to do for the rest of life and be able to impact players like my amazing coaches impacted me.
Were there mentors that weren't coaches early in your career that also helped shape your path?
Yes. So I always really had mentors in schools, whether it was like teachers that I spent a lot of time with. I'm a twin sister, so are very competitive, and we spend a lot of time doing a lot of school activities. So just like all my teachers in high school, and then getting to college, I had a coaching philosophy class. Dr. Cavallini, she was a huge impact on me and kind of got me to realize like coaching lacrosse is actually what I really wanted to do. But yeah, I'm very blessed with a lot of important adults in my life that have kind of shaped me in different ways.
For sure. Let's touch briefly on your time at Limestone. And you've been very fortunate to be on a winning program, seen some NCAA tournament action, and even having a berth in the NCAA National Championship. What did your playing experience teach you about the game?
Uh, Passion and resilience. At Limestone, we worked extremely hard. Like, I think people can look at our outcomes and be like, oh, they win every year, they whatever. But the hours and the hard works and the two-a-days and the balancing that with school. And back when I played, talk about it like it's a long time ago, but there were only two major powerhouses in the South, Rollins and Limestone. So we're traveling. We were traveling up to PA and playing Westchester and all these schools. And so having to balance that really taught me my hard work and resilience and just like perseverance. I mean, we ate and breathed lacrosse, and like our goal every year was to win a national championship, and getting so close and coming short kind of burns my fire every day. But experiences that words can't even describe how amazing and how much they've shaped me to the person and coach I am today.
And I'm glad you brought that up. It's a perfect segue into my next question. How would you say your playing background as a goalie and influenced the way your coaching style is today with Lee?
Yeah, being a goalie is an awesome opportunity. Besides, everyone calls us crazy because we're getting hit by hard rubber balls every day. But
Can
really
imagine.
getting to see both sides of the field. Like as a goalie, when you're in it and playing, like you know how the defense works to stop a shot. But I also really took in like what the attack is doing to beat our defense and score. So that has come in really handy as now I lead Lee, just being able to kind of see both ends of the ball. And like people don't realize like how much you learn from observing, and kind of goalie's the best position to observe in, whether you're on the field or on the sideline.
For sure. Megan, after you graduated from Limestone and just when you first got your coaching opportunities, you've had a couple of stints, you've had some good experience. Talk to us a little bit about your coaching experience, first how you got started in the position, and then what ultimately led you to Lee.
Yeah, so coaching is a grind. And so when I graduated college, I knew I wanted to get into coaching. And the way to get into coaching is like knowing people or GAs and stuff like that. So I got the awesome opportunity to be an admissions rep at Limestone and volunteer coach. And so really that showed me that I really love lacrosse. I mean, I was working 8 to 5 p.m. in the admissions office, staying after making calls and still like using my time off and stuff to go to practice and take spring break. And so I knew ultimately that I loved my time on the field, and I got a lot of experience from admissions about recruiting. And so I knew I wanted to do that full time. And then I got the opportunity to be the head coach at Converse College at the time, now university in Spartanburg. So still close to my roots where I felt comfortable. And kind of that was when my journey started. My first recruiting trip at Converse, I kind of bent down and took a picture with some of my coaching friends and stood back up, and I felt a pop in my knee. I thought I had torn my ACL, and kind of from there it was a whirlwind. That was July 13th. August 25th, I got diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer called osteosarcoma in my left knee. So I spent much of my first year actually coaching full time, dealing with that as well and going through treatment and surgeries and stuff like that and trying to run a team. And ultimately, I fought and I decided that it was best to focus on my health and stepped into that for a little bit, and then got an opportunity to be the assistant coach at Chowan University and did that for a year. While traveling back and forth for appointments and stuff. And then I just realized that like I needed to be closer to Georgia to family. And the Lee opportunity opened up, and I came and stepped on campus, and I knew this is the place I wanted to be, just like the sport with other cancer journeys in our athletic department, and just being closer to Georgia where I was doing follow-ups and stuff. And I stepped on campus, and it felt right. And I was given an opportunity to be the assistant coach here, and I did that for 7.5 years, and then got to step into the head coaching role where I am now.
Usually when you're starting out in your career and your journey, especially when you have all those assistant coaching positions and you're there for 1 to 3 years, usually it's what they like to call stepping stone opportunities through that. So what were some of the most important lessons that you learned along the way in your coaching career to get you to where you are today?
Yeah, asking for help, relying on mentors, taking it all in, really. Another big thing I learned was just like being where your feet at. I think a lot of times in life, we are always looking for the next big thing. And my journey specifically was just really focusing on where I was at, how I can learn and grow in my positions, and kind of enjoying every moment and taking it all in, which has now led me to Lee, where I my feet want to be here every single day for the rest of my life. So those stepping stones and just like learning, I have the unique perspective of learning through adversity, not only on the field but off the field, but being able to use that in my experience, in my coaching, and it kind of has made me a better coach in person.
For sure. And being under the former coach Daryl Martin, it seemed like it really helped you prepare for an opportunity to become a head coach again. So when the 2024 season came around and you became the interim coach, I understand you had some pretty big shoes to fill in that, but just talk to us initially about how that came about and just a little bit more into details, how that transition went. Was it an easy transition? Was it one of those, it was a no-brainer when he left that you were going to take over, or just kind of take us behind the scenes on how that went all about?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting transition because it just all really happened quickly. I was a full time assistant for 7 years. So, being an assistant and head coach's roles are very different on a team. Kind of as an assistant, you get to be the fun person and get to know the team like very, very personally and, for lack of better terms, intimately. And so, when Coach Martin decided that he was going to step away for different opportunities, I was excited. I was ready for the challenge, but I also knew that brought a lot of change. Not only change for the team, but change for me. So the first year and a half, I would say, was definitely a learning curve for everyone. Not that I didn't feel capable, and not that like Lee backed me up 100%, but like having to change the mindset of that, like I am now more of the boss and less of the friend, and trying to change those relationships and stuff. And kind of went through a hard time because he left in October for an opportunity he couldn't pass up, and then so like hiring an assistant and all of that. So definitely a growing experience for me and the team. I think it's made us better to this day, and I wouldn't really change my journey for anything. I learned a lot in those few short months and really had to learn who I was, because the last time I was a head coach, I was way younger and way less experienced, and just kind of taking that and running and kind of creating what I wanted to continue to build here at Lee, and who I wanted our team to be and who I wanted to be.
And as you're talking about when you took over specifically, Megan, and heading into that 2024 season, I can only imagine how brutal that schedule was. A few more Sunshine State non-con opportunities, and just one of those things where when you're stepping into a program and you're leading for your first season, sometimes there's coaches who are fortunate to have a little bit more of a smoother transition, and even from a schedule standpoint things are easier. But for you, Megan, it seems like it was, you kind of just got thrown into the wolves a little bit. But fortunately, through your assistant experience, being with the program for 7 years, it wasn't in a situation where you felt like you were completely unprepared. But it seemed like, it wasn't like you had to fend for yourself, for want of a better term. But when you took over initially in that interim spot, what were some of the early priorities when building and developing the women's lacrosse program the way you see fit?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely culture. So at the time I took over, we had a huge freshman class, 15 freshmen. So already they outnumbered the returners, and just like they came in thinking that the program was what it was before and trying to make change in that. And so definitely focusing on the culture, focusing on creating my coaching style as a head coach and not an assistant, and not that much change, but really like earning that respect, gaining that respect. I'm huge. I'm very relational. So like I live by the quote that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And so really gaining that in a different position, position more of like, as some of my team would see as power. And I don't really like that word. I really think that titles are just a label, but I see where they're coming from. So kind of earning that, gaining that respect, and really going back to the basics. I mean, we had a brutal schedule the past 2 years. Lacrosse has grown, and Florida states are amazing at lacrosse. And so, kind of growing through that adversity and really relying on the fact that we need to focus on things we can control, and that is X's and O's, that is passing and catching, and that is how we treat each other and how we love each other and the culture we're building here.
Megan, what role would you say college programs play in contributing to helping the game grow nationally?
I think a lot. I think it depends on the program and what you do. We do a lot of community stuff here. That is one of my big goals before I even got into coaching. Community service has been huge for me, and some of my work with the IWLCA, which I'm sure we'll touch on later, is big in that. But yeah, we have a huge opportunity to grow the sport, especially here in East Tennessee. When I got the job here, no public high schools around had lacrosse. It just got sanctioned by TWSLA. So Bradley Central, which is right down the street, has lacrosse, and Walker Valley has lacrosse. The private schools have lacrosse, but we spent a lot of my first years here, like going to middle schools and high schools and just like teaching them simple things at PE and getting the word around. And to this day, like a couple weeks ago, we did a game with LMU at a William Blount High School, which is a local high school in Knoxville, like just trying to grow the game and show that like there's good lacrosse around and it's fun. And obviously, like Vanderbilt is helping with that, and bigger schools. But yeah, it's super important because if we want to continue to be successful, especially in Tennessee, we've got to grow it, and we've got to raise lacrosse players.
And with your current program right now, I mean, as a relational coach, and you want to build relationships with your student athletes, with your players to make them better, what would you say makes Lee University a unique place for those student athletes?
Yeah. So Lee embodies the term family. Obviously, we don't get to pick our family, but you get to pick the Lee family. And from administration down, you're a person here. You're not just a number. Our athletic department, led by John Maupin, is extremely close. They stress the importance of taking care of yourself and taking care of your team and doing what you need to do. I don't have a family per se of my own. I'm not married. I don't have kids, but I do have my mom, my twin sister, and a puppy, and obviously some health things. And they just stress like taking care of yourself, being the best you so you can be the best person for everyone else. And so I really stress that on my team. And like I said, it's not just athletics. Administration is amazing. Faculty is awesome. We do a faculty staff appreciation night where we invite the faculty and staff out to show like how their support affects us and teach them a little bit about lacrosse. And just the communications on both sides of academics and athletics is huge here at Lee. And just the support. I have been a couple places. I've been through obviously some hard things, and just when I stepped on campus, I knew that like no matter what life threw at me, whether it was on the field or off the field, like I was going to have support here, and I was going to have a great experience regardless, and I was loved and cared for.
And again, with your talents and your skill sets, especially being an advocate for women's lacrosse, we now transition a little bit more towards the bigger, wider scope of things. You serve in a leadership role currently with the Intercollegiate Women's Lacrosse Association, IWLCA for the pros and the professionals. But talk to us a little bit about your role. As I understand it, you are one of three coaches who are a D2 representative on that board. Talk to us a little bit, kind of like what the role entails and what you do specifically and how you advocate for Division Two.
Yeah, so I am very blessed to be one of the D2 representatives. We have a great group. I actually just rolled onto the board this year, so kind of still getting the lay of the land. Before that, I was a chair or the co-chair of our annual meeting planning committee. So I planned our whole IWLCA convention, and just there we talk to refs. We have clinics to learn and grow. We bring in a keynote speaker. We talk to NCAA. So that's really our time to get everyone's thoughts and opinions and how we want to grow as a sport. And now, kind of as a board member, I get to represent our division in voting for that stuff and bringing up ideas. So we just launched a white paper. We're really trying to grow the game, get everyone on the same page. We want to be on TV. We've seen how volleyball and softball has just grown exponentially and stuff like that. And that's what we want. We want to be us. So we're all in a room working together, D1 through NAIA, on how we can come together, how we can like move the needle forward. Obviously Division 2 doesn't have as much pull as Division 1, but all of us in the room making those comments and coming together to be on ESPN and to make the Olympics. And I'm just really honored that I get to represent the Division 2 community, because we do have impact in that. And one of our next big steps that's hopefully is going to be is that we're all going to be playing a national championship at the same spot, which is huge for us, because right now it's Division 1 women's and men's, and Division 2 and 3 men's, and then Division 2 and 3 women's lacrosse is at a different location. NAIA completely separate as well. So just coming together and growing that will be huge for us.
What has been some personal benefits and blessings to be on the staff? If there's one aspect that you could choose that's like your most favorite part of the job within the role that you're in, what would you say that role would be?
Um, I'm just blessed to be surrounded by who I am. The Liz Roberts Shaw, the executive director, she's awesome. She's amazing. She fights tooth and nail for our sport. And Kelly Gallagher, who happened to be my coach when I was at Limestone, is the president, now the head coach at Tampa. And so I'm just surrounded by really good people, and they help me grow not only in who I am, but in lacrosse and learning more and trying to figure out like how I can kind of use what we are doing here at Lee to gain traction and help the sport grow. But in general, just IWLCA has been a huge part of my journey throughout coaching, and just being able to take the stepping stones and be where I am right now has been a huge blessing, because only three of us represent the whole division. And I'm very, very lucky that I am one of those three.
Megan, why is it important for coaches to stay involved in these type of leadership roles within their sport and to just advocate a little bit more?
Yeah, it's super important. Nothing changes unless you're willing to fight for it. So we can all sit here and complain about anything. We can complain about too many cards or too many whatever. But if we're not willing to get in a room and be truthful and speak our truth and fight for what we believe in, nothing's going to change. So being able to be in that room and getting to talk to people outside of that room and really fighting for what our division wants is super important, and something I don't take lightly, but super excited to be able to do that. And like lacrosse has exponential growth we can do, and just seeing where it was and where we're going and like seeing where we're headed is something I'm super excited to be a part of.
Absolutely, for sure. Megan, we've already covered a little bit about your story, about how you got to lead through your coaching career process. We've discussed a little bit about IWLCA and your involvement. And that's not the only organization, community, if you will, that you're involved with, but you're also very involved with, from a community standpoint, the Austin Hatcher Foundation in Chattanooga, which supports children, families who face pediatric cancer. And I believe you have one of the roles on there as one of the coordinators. Talk to us a little bit how you first got connected with the Austin Hatcher Foundation and just what drew you personally to their mission of the organization.
Yeah, much like lacrosse and sports in general, the cancer world is small. And so when I got here at Lee, our grad assistant happened to be the CEO's babysitter, and kind of heard a little bit about that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I mean, at the time, I was kind of fresh out of treatment and kind of trying to figure out who I was in that journey and stuff. And so it took me a little bit to get involved. And then two of our players ended up getting a job there, and kind of was just like, you should come, you should come. And I was like, I would love to volunteer. What we do at the Austin Hatcher Foundation is we provide free cognitive, behavioral, mental health services to pediatric cancer patients and their family for life. And that's something I love to stress, and something I'm super passionate about, because people think that you just go through the cancer journey, you ring the bell, and everything's okay. And contrary to popular belief, my journey has actually been harder post treatment. And so finding an organization that kind of walks a line alongside you through all of it, coping in the present and thriving in the future, that's super important to me. So I got involved through them. I started volunteering at some events and camps and stuff, and then kind of got in the building and saw for myself how the services can affect a family and can be a huge impact. And as someone who went through treatment as technically like child, but more of an adult and treated like an adult, yeah, the impacts were great. So being able to know that there was a foundation I could be a part of and kind of spread that not only in the state of Tennessee, but nationally. That's what I've loved to do. So, yeah, I help out with the Hatches Hero. It's a national campaign we're launching, and basically it's to provide the resources we provide in person virtually for anyone around the world. So we are now represented in 26 states, which is a huge accomplishment. We've haven't really even officially launched it, but we've been talking about it since 2004, so or 2024, excuse me. And so being able to see that growth in such a short amount of time has been amazing because I got diagnosed in South Carolina. I was treated in Georgia. And like, if I hadn't found myself here at Lee and God didn't bless me with this position, I wouldn't have found out about the Austin Hatcher Foundation. And kind of, I make our two worlds collide and we do a cancer game here at Lee. And just being able to bring those kids and families out to the game, and we wear them on the back of our uniforms, and then we donate the uniforms to the families. Like, really just trying to get them involved. I think the number one thing I have to say to anyone is like, when you get diagnosed with a rare aggressive disease, whether it's cancer or not, like, you just want to feel normal. Like, your life's been taken away from you. And so to walk through those doors at Austin Hatcher and feel like you're a person, not your disease, not your disability, so to speak, it's something I just love to do, and it brings joy to me while spreading kind of my story.
I think of some people in the past that have been inspired because their friend went through something similar and they want to do it because they want to make a difference. But would you say there's a difference when you personally go through these kind of trials and adversities compared to somebody who wants to get involved because they feel passionate about it? I guess where I'm going with the question is that, would you say that there's a big contributing difference between you going through it versus you want to be involved with the Austin Hatcher Foundation, but you may not have necessarily had cancer to directly relate with what the patients and what the community and the families involved in that area go on?
Yeah, I would say for me, yes. So I actually was first touched by cancer in 2013 when I was a sophomore at Limestone. My dad got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and had a really short stint and passed away. And so being an advocate for cancer in that way, and then when I got diagnosed with cancer is just a completely different thing, like kind of the way that you can relate to these families, and just for them to be able to have a person that, like, yes, is talking them through it and going through it, but like also understanding and empathizing and all of that. And a lot of times, like, people want to help, they don't know how to help, and we always just tell them, like, just do something. Don't ask them what they need. Just literally, like, I'm bringing you food on this day, or so to speak. And being able to like go through it and kind of be able to provide those things to people that are just trying to support kind of makes everyone's journeys better, because they're feeling like they're actually involved and actually helping. And then as a cancer patient, you're not feeling like you're managing your friends, or you're not feeling like you have to come up with something to make them feel involved. So yeah, it's a very, very different perspective. And I honestly, making good out of that, I love being able to do that, because I have been able to support people that have been through it myself, and now get to support people that have like best friends and families going through it.
Do experiences like this change how you view your role as a coach and mentor to your players?
100%. If you ask my assistant and my team, I'm the most competitive person in the world. And that is true. I think truly, honestly, lacrosse and my background got me through cancer treatment and got me through cancer. Like, no option. Every day was a game day, and we were fighting and we were winning. And that really got me through my treatment and stuff. But yeah, it's changed me in who I am, just like being able to recognize mental health wise and kind of looking at the big picture. Like, I hate losing, and we've had a couple rough years in that department, and just being able to take a step back and be like, yes, this is horrible, but like, there's so much more to lacrosse than X's and O's. There's so much more to lacrosse than winning and losing. There's so much more to life than that. It's helped me kind of be a more kinder person to myself, really, and being able to let people see the big picture, that like, you are not lacrosse, you play lacrosse, but you're so much more than that. And if I bring you here and we win a couple games and championships, that's awesome. But if you graduate that stage and become the oncologist nurse that you want to be, like, that's my goal in life. And just being able to honestly connect with our alumni and keep them in that is huge for me. Like, don't take this as I don't want to win a national champion, lost by 3. I want to be a national champion one day, but I do think there's a big thing in being a national champion in life. And cancer has definitely taught me that like tomorrow is not guaranteed. And even today, I'm doing what I love, but I'm working really hard to do that. And a lot of my life is different. And so being able to wake up and be like, yeah, I'm sore. Yeah, I'm tired. But like, I wasn't able to do this 10 years ago.
For sure. And Megan, that's actually a perfect segue into the next question I have in regards to what you want to see from your student athletes. And as they're there for the program for 4 years or how many years they are in, what qualities do you want your players to develop during their time at Lee?
Yeah, I want to develop passionate, resilient, hardworking girls. It's if everyone recruits differently, and I've recruited a couple different ways as I've been on my journey and stuff. But ultimately, I can teach people X's and O's. We can teach catch and throw, but like you can't teach that passion. You can't teach that resilience. I want people to come here because they want to compete at a high level and win lacrosse games, but I also want them to come here to get the degree and impact the life of others when they graduate. So if we win championships, that's awesome. I did part of my job, but my other part of the job is championing people and making sure that they walk across that stage in 4 or 5 years, whatever that is, doing what they want to do and being successful. And that makes me the happiest. That will never trump any championship. If I get to be a part of someone's life for the rest of their life and watch them graduate and get married and have kids and do all this stuff, like I'm doing the right thing and I'm impacting players how I should be.
For sure. I would imagine that this is just the beginning from a head coaching standpoint. Obviously, from an assistant coach to a head coach. To me, I look at that as different eras in terms of how you view your coaching style, lives. There's always lessons that you learn along the way, but through lessons also comes memorable moments, things that have made a good impact for you, some good memories that you take. What moments so far in your head coaching career at Lee have stood out to you?
Oh, honestly, the everyday moments. The yesterday we just came back from Florida. Yesterday we practiced. It was snowing. The everyday like little moments of getting to enjoy my team and my players and the people I'm around because I've experienced life and stuff. Getting to take a step back and just kind of standing there and being like, these are the big moments. These aren't the little moments. These are the big moments. I mean, I'm only 2 years into being a head coach, so I would say the little moments in that, but just what we're able to provide here at Lee and for our team, and just getting to enjoy being where I am and the people I'm around.
For sure. And it looks like you got a friend there with us that has been pretty eager. We know we've heard him just, on and off a little bit, just shaking around in the office. But tell us about your friend, introduce him, how has he been important in your journey so far?
Yeah, so this is Benny. He's a 9-month-old Boston Terrier. I had a dog when I got diagnosed with cancer who was very much a service animal for me. And unfortunately, last year he passed away. And so it kind of always been my dream to bring in a puppy and train him to be a service dog and get him. You always see the research about like just dogs make everyone happier. And so he's in the process of being a therapy dog. So I'm very lucky that Lee allows me to bring him around the team, not at practice, not at games, not when we're doing the important stuff. But I spend a lot of time in PT. Our PT place is right next to us. A lot of my players are in PT. So just getting to bring him around and see the way that he makes people smile and kind of has honestly made our team happier and better and just like kind of been a little more fun. So yeah, that is what I'm blessed to be able to do. And I think it's exciting for everyone.
Megan, that kind of reminds me, recently there's been a story that I think has made national headlines, Division II softball team, and I think it was Arkansas Tech, I want to say, where they actually have a staff headshot of the dog. The dog is officially a part of the coaching staff, but the coaching role specifically for that dog is mental health. And I don't think we talk about that enough in terms of just the impact that it has on our culture and our day and age. But I mean, that just goes to show you the testament of, how much of an impact that they have and, how beneficial it is for the team. I wonder if Philip Tang, if you talked with him about potentially adding Benny onto the staff as kind of like, part-time coach or just like a mental health encourager for the team, or, how that might come about. But it could be something to potentially consider.
I will say that he has joined us at media day and stuff like that. So he gets quite the love around campus. So maybe we're onto something.
For sure. But Megan, is there a particular game, season, or player development story that has been especially meaningful to you in these last 2, 3 years as the person at the helm at Lee?
I would just honestly player development for our whole team. When I got to Lee in 2017, 18, we were a different program, and getting to grow that culture and grow that group of girls and teach them life lessons and be able to see where we are now and kind of how we handle wins and losses and handle ourselves in the community. That's what I'm most proud of. It shows on the field. Like, we pray after every game. We're always encouraging people. Like, yes, Lee is a Christian institution, but we're encouraging that we want people to feel like Jesus when they're around us. So the player development in that aspect and being able to, that's something I'm super proud of, to be the head coach of that and be a leader in that. As far as like my favorite game, honestly, it would have to be last year against Montevello. The Montevello head coach is one of my best friends, AD, and it happened to be our cancer game. And they teamed up with us, and they wore children's names on the back of their jerseys. We wore children's names. So we had like over 62 names represented, and the families just came out. And my friend AD, who's the coach there, has some personal stuff with cancer, and she asked to wear my jersey. And so being able to coach next to her and see my name on the back of her and kind of just like show both of our teams that, like, yes, lacrosse is competitive and it's a game, but it's much bigger than that. And like, you can come off a field win or loss, and like, you have your people, and that might be that you're competing against each other, but in the end, like, it's just a game. Like, you guys are best friends still. So that would probably have to be my favorite, doing something with one of my best friends for a bigger reason. And no matter the score, we both walked off the field happy that we were doing something bigger than lacrosse.
Absolutely. And I don't think it gets said enough that the impact that women's lacrosse has is a sport that, we want to continue to try to grow in every facet and every level, not just Division II, but like you were mentioning earlier, D1, D3, NAIA level, and everywhere else. But, the stories and the connections that people have, I mean, like, it's amazing how certain sports can just bring a community and a group together, in a lacrosse light setting, and just some of the things you find out along the way.
Yeah, we do. I'm very proud to be a part of that. I think the lacrosse community does a great job. Like, when I got diagnosed, the Duke women's head coach had battled with breast cancer, and she reached out. And so, like, I feel like, unlike some sports, like, division is just a number. It doesn't really matter. We're all people. We all come together. We all support each other, fight for each other, and want what's best for the game.
For sure. All right, Megan, it's that time in the show where we try to throw some rapid fire questions at you. Feel free to answer how you like. So first question we have for you is the most underrated skill in lacrosse.
Ground balls.
One quality every great team leader needs.
Action.
What's the biggest misconception people have about women's lacrosse?
It's non-contact.
What's your favorite part of the recruiting process?
Getting to know the players and the families.
One thing every young lacrosse player should focus on developing early.
Grit, resilience, passion.
And then a moment in coaching that reminds you why you love the job.
Every day, getting to be around my players, and every day is different.
Good deal. Well, Megan, we want to thank you again for being on our show. We appreciate you sharing your story. Very impactful as well. Obviously it goes without saying that your story and where you've been through so far, you've been an advocate for women's lacrosse, a shining light for the sport, as well as just how you walk about doing things in your walk of faith, which we really appreciate you sharing that as well. We're looking to see a continued great season at Lee, and we're looking forward to seeing them improve and you continuing to lead that team the way you see fit.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. This has been so fun.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Inside the GSC. Don't forget to hit like, share, or subscribe wherever content can be found so you won't miss highlights, stories, and more. So long for now, and we'll see you back here next time on Inside the GSC.